Kill yourself!
Live, and I'm gonna pull out my fucking dick, and I'm gonna piss on Kiwi Farms.
Fuck yourself, you piece of shit, faggot motherfucker!
Statement! Such a brave stance you took, Aiden! Oh, you're so You're a dumb bitch. That's what I really think. If you guys, fuck this shit! Fuck off, and fuck you people trying to...
So get me, I did a cold open. Hey everybody, Graham here. So, most of you are probably aware, but for those few of you who are not, what you just watched was a montage of Ethan Ralph. And I suspect most anybody watching this probably knows who Ethan Ralph is, but just in case there's a few people out there who don't, Ethan Ralph is the host of the Killstream podcast. He's a streamer. He got his start with the internet blood sports crowd, which was a loose affiliation of streamers who would basically just mercilessly roast each other about anything and everything. I don't know why people would want to do this, but there are people who seem to thrive on conflict, and that's what internet blood sports seem to be about to me. I love the fact that people refer to internet blood sports as IBS, because I think of IBS as irritable bowel syndrome, and to me, both of those things are about equally valued by me. So here's the thing with Ethan. Just to give a little thumbnail, Ethan met a few years ago an underage girl named Faith, and when she turned 18, she ran away from home to be with him. Now, this has led many people to call Ralph a groomer. I don't know what the exact definition of grooming is. I don't know if... Does any conversation between an adult and a minor constitute grooming? I'm not sure. But it doesn't seem that far-fetched that Ralph had ulterior motives even when she was underage. Regardless, she ended up leaving home and moving in with him and got pregnant. They fell out, and subsequently Ralph ended up renouncing all of his paternal rights to the child, so he essentially abandoned the kid, and he released a revenge porn tape of Faith, which, despite the fact that he was convicted in court of doing this, the video can still be found online to this day, which I think is really awful. But in any case, the tape doesn't make Ralph look good. I mean, it shows him up for being a not particularly, shall we say, considerate lover, or well-equipped lover. So, while this falling out was going on, he met another girl named Amanda. Amanda also goes by the name May, and also goes by the handle Pantsu, which, if I'm not mistaken, is Japanese for panties. Make of that what you will. Pantsu ended up leaving the guy that she was with. Guy, probably not the most accurate term. He started transitioning while they were together, and she identifies as female now. So I'm not sure when all that happened. But in any respect, things between that person and May were falling apart. She started talking to Ethan. She seems to be a little bit of a clout chaser. So possibly the reason that she went after Ethan was because he was well known on the internet at the time. They tried to arrange some kind of three-way thing with he, May, and Faith, and I guess Faith wasn't really having it, ended up running back to her parents, and that's when the renouncing of parental rights and the revenge porn thing happened. So May moved in, and May is generally considered a bit of a lolcow in her own right. I don't know if that's entirely fair or not. Kiwi Farms goes pretty hard on her, but, I mean, the point of Kiwi Farms is kind of to have a place where you can go hard on anyone. So, I don't know how accurate it is to call May a lolcow or what. But regardless, she's pretty weird. So, Ralph ends up getting her pregnant. And this is where I kind of started paying attention, because this is about the point where news about Chris Chan stopped coming out and stuff about Ralph really kind of picked up. So here's the thing. May's pregnant. She's about to give birth. She goes to her parents in Rochester, New York, I believe, to have the baby there. Does Ralph go with her? No, he does not. What does he do instead? He sets up a bowling tournament. You heard me right, a bowling tournament. Now, the deal was, what he kept telling people was that in addition to the bowling tournament, so it was going to be a live Killstream event. So there was going to be a debate, I guess a political debate, the bowling tournament, and then he and May were going to get married. But May ended up being too pregnant and too about to deliver to make the trip from New York, where she was, to, I believe it was Texas, where the bowling event was happening. This despite the fact that their actual residence is in Virginia. But apparently Ralph met some guy who knew who he was from the internet and offered to let him use the bowling alley for free. Now, this event was a spectacular debacle. The debate, such as it was basically a lot of screaming and nobody listening. May, of course, wasn't there, so there was no wedding. And Ralph ended up giving himself the trophy from the bowling tournament. So there you go. So what happens at this point? Does Ralph go to Rochester to be with his wife and now newborn child? Or not his wife, his girlfriend, and his now newborn child? No. Ralph goes back to Virginia and lets May drive herself and the kid from Rochester to Virginia. That is a long-ass drive. That is way too much for a newborn and way too much for a mother who just gave birth. But apparently the two of them survived, and now they are home together. Now, since the birth of what turned out to be their daughter was becoming imminent, Ralph seemed to go down a pretty hard spiral that he still appears to be on. He went to Portugal for some reason that I'm not too clear on. Did it to own somebody, I guess. Ended up getting mugged. Comes back, he's all bruised up. He got actually beat up pretty bad. I guess he was in the hospital in Portugal for a while, and then he came back here and he was all bruised up and bandaged. And it appears that he has always been, as far as I know, or at least for most of the time that he's been active on the internet, he's been an active drug user and a heavy drinker. And there are text messages between May and a guy named Gator, who was part of Ralph's podcast for a while, but they ended up having a falling out, which is becoming a common thing with Ralph. So they ended up having a falling out, and there are these text messages where May is saying to Gator that she's found at least a pint bottle of whiskey for every day that she was away. So, Ralph is drinking at least a pint of whiskey a day, and he's apparently likes the Colombian Bam Bam and the more trailer trash version of the Bam Bam, which is, the stuff that's made in kitchens. And he likes the pills. So it seems as though those things are accelerating. He's doing more drinking, doing more drugs, and he's trying to set up more events. He wants to do some kind of wet t-shirt contest in Florida. He's talking about something in Vegas. Basically, it looks like he's doing anything he can to get away from his child and her mother. And the thing about this is that he doesn't seem to really have the money for it. His streams don't bring in anywhere near the kind of viewership that they used to. And this has caused people to believe, with, I think, pretty good reason, that Ralph is basically broke. So he's broke. He's in a situation that he's really not loving, which is being at home with May and the kid. And he's looking for ways to escape. He's drinking a lot. He's doing a lot of drugs. And he's really raging on his podcast. As you saw in the opening montage, he just likes screaming at people. And I mean, granted, this has always been his style. He has this sort of Sam Kinison shtick that he does, but lately there seems to be a lot of force behind it. He's burning bridges with the last of the people who've stood by him. And there is a lot of speculation that things are going to end badly, that he's either going to self-delete, either actively by, taking active measures to get rid of himself, or he's just going to continue to escalate his reckless behavior until he has a car crash or something, or a heart attack, and passes away that way. And that, of course, is going to leave May stuck with the kid on her own, which is probably going to happen anyway. Ralph does not appear to be in a position to straighten up and get himself together and start being a responsible partner and parent. He doesn't seem to have the desire to do that. Now, the other possibility, and I think this is the one that most decent people would like to see, is that Ralph realizes that he has hit bottom and he finally decides to clean up. And if he does that, it's going to take a lot, because he's going to have to do a lot of work. He's addicted to multiple substances, and it's pretty clear that he goes to these substances to self-medicate for what are probably fairly severe emotions. Whatever it is that's driving him to that behavior, as is the case with a lot of addicts, once you take away the drugs, you have to deal with whatever it was that was causing you to want to do the drugs in the first place. In the book Infinite Jest, a lot of action takes place at AA meetings, and I've never been to an AA meeting, so I can't speak from experience, but apparently one of the sayings they use is, don't worry about getting in touch with your feelings, they'll get in touch with you, which is a way of saying that once you take away the substance, then the real problem becomes apparent. So he could do that. He could get clean and he could get help, but it would require him admitting a lot of stuff that he doesn't want to admit, which is basically that he has fucked up a lot over the past couple of years, at least. I mean, there's probably even stuff before that that's worse or as bad, but based on what I've read, it really seems like the hard downward spiral started with the exit of Faith and the arrival of May. So that's pretty much where we are right now. I don't know if any of the things that he's supposedly planning are going to come to fruition. I don't know if he'll ever pull off his wet t-shirt contest or whatever it is that he was supposedly planning in Vegas. There's a lot of speculation that the reason he likes going to Vegas so much is for the sex workers. And, well, I personally do not have an issue with the practice of patronizing sex workers. I do if you're squandering the money that you should be using to support your just postpartum girlfriend and your newborn child. But it looks like he's taking any opportunity to escape from that, and that is certainly not healthy, and I think is going to be a problem for the both of them. If Ralph does not either self-delete or accidentally self-delete in the next, say, year, I would fully expect to see a split with May at some point. He'll find some other young woman to charm, and she'll come in and replace May. Now, May has tried to sort of prevent this proactively by giving him the May pass, which basically means she doesn't care if he messes with other women. And maybe legitimately she doesn't, but Ralph, regardless, is running with that, and I don't see much good coming from it. So there it is. That is the status of Ethan Ralph these days, and he is worth keeping an eye on because things are developing day by day. His section of the Kiwi Farms is very active. Now, I don't necessarily take everything on the Kiwi Farms as gospel, but they are the people who are obsessively keeping up with lolcows, and right now, I would say that with Chris Chan incommunicado, Ralph is the preeminent lolcow. So there it is. That's your lolcow report for today. Ethan's worth checking out. I get conflicted about stuff like this because on the one hand, I think it's kind of, I don't know, small to laugh at people who are really messing their lives up thoroughly. But on the other hand, so many people have told him exactly what he's doing, and he absolutely rejects any of this out of hand. He actually, he describes Portugal and the bowling thing as wins, despite the fact that anybody looking at them could tell they weren't. I mean, he does not come out of these things looking good, and somehow he thinks he does. He seems to be under the delusion. If you know anything about pro wrestling, I don't watch a lot of pro wrestling anymore, but I did maybe 20 years ago, right about the time that WCW was crumbling and WWE was acquiring them and ECW. It was about the time that I was watching wrestling. And anyway, if you know anything about wrestling, you know that there are heels who are the bad guys and baby faces or just faces who are the good guys. And I think Ralph is really playing up the idea that he's a heel. Problem is that he's doing these heel behaviors in real life, and it's not supposed to work that way. There's another wrestling term called kayfabe, which is the story that's being presented, and wrestlers are not supposed to break kayfabe. But in Ralph's case, there is no kayfabe. This is exactly who Ralph actually is. He's just sort of teasing the heel thing to justify the behavior, and it really doesn't work. Anyway, I can see that this video is going on for longer than I expected, so I'm just going to end it here. If you're interested in learning more about Ralph, there are lots of videos. Just search on YouTube. Just type Ethan Ralph into the search bar, and that's all you got to do. Or you can head over to the Kiwi Farms and you can read up on the excruciating minutia of pretty much everything he's done for who the hell knows. How long's the Kiwi Farms been around? 8, 10 years? Anyway, there it is. Ethan Ralph, Killstream. See you in the next one. Graham out. Bye.